I'm still working, unfortunately. Should we get on? Come on. Oh. Ciao. Just making sure. I never know when it's gonna stop popping, so I'm just gonna start. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the special business meeting of the Board of Education, Tuesday, April 20th, 2021. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. And in light of today's events, I just want to take a moment to thank the administration and all the administrators in the buildings for their quick response and their ability to keep our children calm and safe throughout the day. I also would like to take a moment to respect the life of the 49-year-old gentleman who was shot and killed today in today's events at the local Stop and Shop, and to honor those and give good thoughts to those who were injured. So let's just take a moment. I will also say, and I might just be a little bit biased, there's nobody out there that's going to hear this, but for my own sake, I'd like to thank the Nassau County Police Department for their ability to keep in touch with everybody, make sure that all the local school districts, not just ours, ours obviously was one of the most local in proximity, keeping everybody abreast of what was going on and making sure that our children were safe and allowing us to know when it was safe to open the doors and let everybody out. So just thank everybody again for doing such a wonderful job today.
Just to add to that, I did call the commissioner, left him a message, thank you. And so they are aware of our appreciativeness.
Okay, we have a few items for business, and then we're going to move on to the conversation in regard to the CDC guidance. So at this time, I need a motion to move docket 0-328 through 0-330.
So moved.
Second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye, motion passes. I need a motion to move docket 0-331 through 0-338.
So
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye, motion passes. At this time, I'm going to open up the floor to Mr. Raymond, who's going to have a conversation with us in regard to the current guidance by the CDC in regard to distancing in some of our buildings. And then we're going to open it up to a little Q&A to get some input from the community. Do you want to move over here? I can-
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Fine, I'm still moving.
Good evening. Can everyone see that screen?
yes,
Thank you. Well, I want to start off by thanking numerous people who have contributed to get us to this point today. community, the staff, administration, mainly for the students, because their effervescence, their good-naturedness, their willingness and eagerness to learn, I think has carried adults at times more than the adults have carried them. Just a couple of quick updates. Recently, we completed our benchmarking with the NWA in terms of reading, and mid-year winter benchmarking the year prior compared to this year. So it's the year prior to COVID beginning to now during COVID. Overall, K to 8, we only saw a -1% difference from the year before. So that is a credit to everyone involved, and thank you for that. Our math scores were lower, but what the state and really the nation were deemed within the COVID range. We're not happy with that, but we knew math was an issue. We did adopt a new math program, as you are aware, and we are in the process of rolling it out. So we look forward to continuing that work in the future. So last week, we put out a one-question survey just to get a feel for where people's minds were, and I broke it down a little bit for you here so you could see it. Parents, staff members of community, with the majority being the parents, which is an important thing. And as you can see down the bottom right in the green section there that we highlighted for you, it's basically 51-49 in terms of preference of model. A little bit more for concurrent, hybrid, and with the other one being a return to school prior to the pandemic. You can see the breakdowns by building. This presentation will be up on the website tomorrow, so you do not excuse me, I'll try that again. You do not need to take notes, as you'll be able to find it in the school reopening section. Here are some of the results. These are the top 10. I did fix them for grammar, just so they were all the same. But as you can see, mainly these comments relate to really maintaining 6 feet. And some people questioning the guidelines themselves. So there, again, you could read them for yourself, and it'll be in the presentation that's going to be posted tomorrow. So where did this come from? It came from the CDC, or the United States Center for Disease Control. The New York State Department of Health put out a 24-page document, which will also be posted on the website. It will not be complete. There are check marks and places for me to sign and such, but I will not be doing that yet because no decisions have been made. But we will give you the link so that in case you want to read through this 24-page document, you can. But basically, the guidance in part really deals with the fact that students can be as little as 3 feet apart from each other with certain exceptions. So let's talk about these updates. We can reduce the physical distancing to less than 3 feet between students during academic instruction. So while they are learning, they can be sitting in their seats 3 feet or more apart. But this depends upon community transmission rates, grade levels. We will get into that a little bit later. But there are instances where 6 feet must be maintained. So that's between adults, also between students and adults. 6 feet must be maintained as we are doing now, which during meals, snacks, or drinking of water, and they can remove their masks, which can be problematic for us as we would probably need to add more lunch time to our buildings if we were to bring everyone back, because there's no real way to do it otherwise due to spacing. Just to shorten up the third bullet, music and PE can now be 6 feet instead of 12. That's pretty straightforward. Common areas must be 6 feet. So what is the common area? That includes the lobby, the auditoriums, the gymnasiums, the cafeterias, the hallways, where possible. I have to give our students credit. They do a very nice job of maintaining hallway spacing. If you're in kindergarten, you use your zombie arms. And if you're in high school, well, they're usually zombies till that second period anyway, so they usually. There's an exception to the 3 foot rule, and that has to do with these high transmission rates. But they are really concerned more about the middle and high school students because they're older and they're more. There's a higher rate of positivity transmission with the older students than there is with the younger students, as we all know. They talk about cohorting and they give you a definition, but you're going to ask the question, well, how many makes a cohort? Well, they won't answer that question for you. So we're assuming what they read between the lines, a cohort means a class. So if a class can stay together and move together, it's easy to contact trace. Okay, that's great in theory. We could definitely do that in kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth. Comes a little bit more problematic in fifth and sixth, because we do have some teaming situations, although we can arrange seating to be exactly the same in every class. But high school and middle school is problematic with 9.5 weeks left of school. Our cohorts are A and B, so that's half the kids each day. And they don't have a cohort schedule. They have a regular schedule because we were trying to maintain instruction as a whole as we possibly could. We are approximately 2.5 weeks away from AP exams. And then we have Regents exams. We all know about the Regents exams. And I'm not advocating for this. I'm just stating facts. You do not need to take the Regents exam if you choose not to. Again, I'm not advocating that. I'm just stating the facts as they are. You could receive an exemption if you are a student, but you can choose to take it. If you take the Regents exam, it goes on your permanent record, the grade that you receive, but you still can receive the exemption. And as long as you pass the class, you will receive full credit. So we do have some issues at the secondary level with cohorting and making that all work. So here's the link to the guidance. They said it'll be posted tomorrow. They did change the wording from now they say face mask. They've said face covering in the past. I think they're just trying to eliminate gaiters and bandanas and such. We didn't allow those anyway, so we were not concerned about that. Barriers are not an issue for us, as we never purchased the barriers. And quick little story. I spoke with 3 superintendents over the weekend that I ran into, and they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on these polycarbonate barriers. And now they don't know what to do with them. So we brainstormed together and we decided they should just take all the polycarbonate, create a STEM project and build a dome with polycarbonate, and then they could have another classroom to put students into. It's probably the only good thing I've done in my life, but I'm very happy that I did not fall for the 21st century version of the snake oil salesman. He could not do anything. They are not going to do anything. And we have to focus on ventilation and air, which we've covered in the past, but just to reiterate, every building the elementary level has univents that are fully functional or brand new. We have brand new, fully functional univents in the STEM labs in both the middle school and high school. And we have fully functional univents in the rest of the secondary plant. And as Mr. Press has reiterated numerous times in his budget presentation so eloquently, we're going to look to use some of that federal money, which they gave us for COVID upgrades, to upgrade some of the older univents to make them more modern. Testing, we're going to continue screening as we have done the entire year. We will not do COVID testing in the schools. I don't know if anybody does. We did not feel that was appropriate. No need for it. We did talk about it for a little bit in the past. If you recall, there was a green zone, a yellow zone, and an orange zone, but miraculously that just happened to disappear, even though it's still a thing. So, but we don't have to do that, so we don't need to worry about it. And we will maintain the morning routine of taking your temperature, filling out the app, and making sure everyone does so. Physical distancing should be different by grade level, transmission risk. There are 4 levels of indicators, which I'll share with you now. There's a blue, a yellow, orange, and red. That doesn't look like that. That's orange and then red, but it does say that, so it should be fine. It goes by 100,000 cases in the past 7 days. If you use Newsday as your guidance, please remember that's not 100,000, it's 1,000. Like today, we were based on April 18th, I believe it was, a Newsday. We were at 7 and change, 7 people per day out of 1,000. So we're well within the low transmission range. I did learn something new, NATS, and did write it down, but don't want to get the acronym wrong. Excuse me, I apologize. NAT stands for Nucleic Acid Amplification Tests. I would really talk to the DOH and whoever else I need to talk to, because I wouldn't even know how to calculate that because I don't have all that information. But we will be able to get that information from the Department of Health if need be, but it is related to the transmission rate, so we would be fine. So the higher you go into the different colors, if you go into orange and red, if we were all full in, we would probably have to go back to probably remote and red. Yellow or orange might lead to a hybrid situation. So there's a lot to this with 9.5 weeks left in the school year. Right now, our positivity rate today was approximately 0.6 or 0.6%. So it is quite low in our buildings, in our district. That's not in our community, but in the building. The Department of Health is not going to review or approve our revisions to the school reopening plan. If we modify anything, we have to share it with the local health department, the Nassau County Department of Health, and the state ed department. The state ed department did put out some clarification just yesterday in a memo form in which we have been requested, all districts have been requested to submit it in the New York State Ed portal. So we will be submitting any changes, if there are changes, to both the state ed department and the local health department. I did speak with the epidemiologist, Dr. Buckman, at the Nassau County Department of Health. And she said there's 9 weeks left in the school year and you guys are doing great. This is exactly what she said to me. She left it at that. So thank you. Those are really all the updates in this 24-page document. A lot of it has to do with, I hear testify or I test to doing such and such, I test to doing such and such. So I pulled out the major ideas from this document. And so basically what we're talking about, we could, if we choose, move to less than 6 feet. Doesn't have to be 3 feet. It could be 5, 4, 3.5, 3 3/4, whatever you want. And that's kind of where we're at. So take questions and input from anybody.
Okay.
Mr. Fleckaby's, yeah, thank you.
So before I go to the community members or anybody that might be on the screen, does anybody from the board have a question right off the bat? Otherwise, we'll go to the chat and then we'll go back to discussing it. Can you put the chat box up? It's going to be a little hard for me to see. Mrs. Day, I don't know if your question was answered by the last the screen. Okay, so her question was what's considered high transmission rate. That was pretty much just covered. Mr. Raymond also said in district, we had a very low rate, was less than 1%.
Yeah.
Will this agenda is allowing us to address the board for the purposes of any agenda item that was on the board or the meeting information we just gave out. This is about this was really the forum for reopening of school. But yes, we will be having that now, actually. So, but I did that already. Hold on one second. I just want to, oh, they were answered. See, Mrs. Day, I should have read the third part and then I would have known your questions were answered. You have a new question. All right, so let's give Mrs. Hafner's question first, and then we'll come back to yours. Go ahead, Mrs. Hafner.
My question has nothing to do with this conversation, so I don't know if this is the time to ask it.
It would only be about whatever was on the agenda for this evening. Was it about that agenda?
No, it was not.
Okay, do you want to
Although I
email
do
it
have
to
a
me?
question about your agenda.
Okay,
So the agenda comes up the day before, at least in the last few meetings that I'm attending, and yet your policy says it should go up ideally 5 days before. Is there any reason why it's not coming up until the day before the meeting?
well, agendas generally have not in the last 12 years that I know of gone out 5 days before, because we don't even get our agenda 5 days before usually. We try, but we don't always get it 5 days before. So I can address that and see what we can do to rectify what's on the policy and also rectify getting it out a little bit earlier, but it has to be posted at least 24 hours. Again, as far as this meeting goes, tonight's meeting was not supposed to be a special business meeting. We changed the posting the other day just to read special business meeting because Mr. Press had some stuff that had to be passed, with the exception of the BOCES elections that had to be done today. Thanks, Kath. I'm sorry, Mrs. Hafner, in regard to the question that you were going to ask before that, if you want to send me an email with whatever that question is, I'll be happy to try and get you an answer for it. Or Tuesday night, you could come if it's, I don't know if it'll be on that agenda either. So if you just have a question, you could happily email.
No, it's about a docket from March 16th that I didn't get a chance to see because it was 81 pages. And so I do have several questions about that particular docket.
Okay, if you could send me an email, because not in front of me, I wouldn't even know the answers to the docket information. I'll see what I can do about getting you some information.
I just as soon talk about it as opposed to sending an email. I prefer to
Okay.
talk.
I don't disagree with you, but I don't even know what docket it is what I'm saying. I don't
It's
have.
docket 266 from March 16th.
Okay, so I will look into that docket for you first.
Perfect.
Mrs. Day, you had another question?
Yeah, good evening. I had a couple of questions after looking at the presentation. Well, the first thing, I guess, before I go to that question that I just wanted to address is I felt like as a district resident, I know that we received these parental intent forms to send back to the school. However, I feel like I don't have a clear picture of what our plan is. I know that the CDC and the New York State Department of Health has issued new guidelines, but I did participate in the thought exchange survey, and I saw a lot of other parents with the same concerns as mine. Even though these new changes are being implemented, we have a decision as a district to choose whether we want to keep it as is, or make any changes. And a lot of people were saying that, at this point in the year, does it really make sense to issue any changes, if what we have been doing is working? I mean, on your end, I'm not sure, whether there's a tremendous influx of students that are want to come to the hybrid model that we're doing remote. But my biggest concern as a mom and a resident was that, I know the elementary kids do snack in the classroom, and I know that one of the exceptions was that, the 6 feet distance must be maintained in cases where the students don't have masks on. And if we do change from 6 feet to 3 feet, for the cafeteria for lunch, that shouldn't be an issue if they're 6 feet in the cafeteria. But are we still having kids eat lunch in the classroom, or are they going to be going into the cafeteria to eat snack? Sorry, not lunch, snack on the elementary level. So that's my first concern and question. I don't know if you want to address that first, and then I can ask the next one.
We'd have to have snack where they could be 6 feet apart.
Okay. And okay. And then also, Mr. Riemann, from your presentation, thank you for providing us with that. But the NWEA benchmarking, I had a question about that, the K through 8 -1% difference. What are those results from? From which quarter benchmark was that taken from? Because I know in the elementary school, there was a decision made by the principal that I wasn't made privy to until after the fact, that the students would not take the winter benchmark. And I know that they did take the winter benchmark in the middle school, but I guess that was a building specific decision. So I'm trying to get a grasp of the -1%. What quarter is that from for the difference? And is that really giving us a true number of how our children performed if all of our children who took, some took the benchmark and some didn't? So I just want some clarity on that from you.
Well, as I stated earlier, it's the winter benchmark, the
Okay.
winter of the year before, prior to COVID, and the winter, this past winter. And
Meaning,
you are correct, and you are correct. Not everyone took the benchmark, so it's just based on the students who did. But that goes for any type of assessment situation. You can only base it on the work that the students did there. It's a indicator. It's not the only indicator we use, as you know. We benchmark the student throughout the year, so we will wait until the spring and we will use our typical benchmarking tools internally to see what kind of growth the kids made over the course of this year.
okay, so the winter benchmark as in 2020 or 2021, they took their winter, right?
Well, okay.
What month?
Let me try to,
2020.
there's no month. It's not a month. They do it by season. So it's the winter of 2020 compared to the winter of 2021.
Are there some students that, winter of 2020 compared to winter of 2021, are there some students that opt out of the quarterly benchmarks, or are all students normally take those? I mean, because I know that those are different than the
No,
state
this is,
test.
this is not like the 3-8 assessment. So no, they don't typically opt out.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. And I think that was all that I had. Is that number, are you going to give us an updated number after the spring one, comparatively to the winter?
Oh,
20.
as you know, and we've discussed this numerous times in the past, the individual reports get mailed home. We will definitely mail those home. But quite honestly, I would look holistically, especially this year, not at just that piece of data, but all the data we have collected. So we will come up with, we don't have parent-teacher conferences. We'll come up with a solution to communicate that information with all the families.
Okay. And then also, are we going to make a decision as a district as far as whether we're going to update our reopening plan before we expect parents to send a parental intent?
Well,
Like-
that's a great question, but if you don't send the parental intent, that's really to gain more information. So I can add to that a little bit for you. K-6, approximately, and this is round numbers, and this is just for the people who took the survey as of midday today, and today was a little crazy. 3/4 of the families want either hybrid or full in K-6, and of those, 70% would prefer full in. 7-12 is definitely different. 45% prefer hybrid, and approximately 41% prefer full in. So it's a little different at the secondary level as compared to the elementary level. I found that to be interesting, considering the fact that the thought exchange result was split 50-50. But, when people sit back and they read through it, they think about it, they make their own choices. So we're just trying to gather as much information as quickly as we can, because as you know, part of the problem is there's only 9.5 weeks left of school. And if we all come to some sort of consensus in which we did want to make a change, we have to get the ball rolling. This is not that simple. I hope everybody understands that. We have a transportation department that is run by Ms. Gandolfo, and Mr. Press helps. We do not have just hang on a minute, mistake. So it's going to take us a good week or so to really organize busing, right? I mean, this is something Mr. Gandolfo works on over the summer. So, and people also have to remember that if we go back to busing, there will be 44 students on a large bus, just like we do now with all the private school kids, just like we do now, for certain sports situations. So that's something that people should be aware of. Again, I want to reiterate, even though it does sort of pertain to you at the secondary level, We don't have a real way of cohorting in the way that the state imagines. So I don't know how we do that, and I think it's totally unfair to the students in the high school who are 2.5 weeks away from taking AP exams, which they have been working very hard towards being prepared for. And then if they choose to take the Regents, they have to prepare for that as well. So there's a lot to consider and talk about. So we were spending this week to talk about it. Tonight happens to be a special meeting that we added onto the agenda. I met with 2 buildings so far with Mr. Press and Ms. Riley. I'm going to meet with 2 more buildings tomorrow. I'm going to meet with the last one on Thursday. In the meantime, we will gather all the parent information. I think the last day to return is tomorrow, Ms. Day. So it doesn't commit you to anything, Ms. Day, but I would like your opinion. So if you could fill that out and send it back tomorrow, that would be wonderful.
Well, I would want them both to continue as they are. But my biggest concern was just, you know, being unmasked for snack time. Like what, you know, are the configurations on the elementary level? I would just feel more comfortable if they are eating snack in the classroom for them to be at that 6 feet distance that is specified in the guidelines. I just think
They have to follow the protocols. We've been following the protocols the entire year. One of the protocols is if they take their mask off to eat or drink, they have to be 6 feet. I don't have an option on that. That's the way it's going to be. I do have my concerns about that because how do we do it, right? How do we do it safely? How do we do it consistently?
Well, aren't they doing it now, Mr. Raymond?
Yeah, but they're hybrid right now.
Yeah, well, that's why I was saying they're hybrid right now. So why at this point of the year with only 9 weeks left are we, you know, trying to rush into making a decision that requires a thought process that, you know, is just going to make things so much more difficult.
But we're not.
Like, I mean, I understand if we would reevaluate something like this and, you know, for the upcoming fall semester when kids are returning back to school and seeing if we can accommodate those provisions with the all-in model. Like, I don't know what the numbers are at each school, but I mean, just to put yourself in between a rock and a hard place at this, you know, at this point in time in the year it just creates an extra stressor for everybody.
And honestly, Mrs. Day, I don't know that many of us or most of us don't agree with you. I think the problem is that there are a lot of parents at this point that do want their children back in the building 5 days. And because the CDC has come out with that regulation, it is something that we have to discuss whether or not it means that doesn't mean just because we allow kids to come back into the buildings 5 days, just so everybody is aware of that. If the choice was to make the change to our reopening plan and allow kids into the building would not mean that everybody has to return 5 days. If you chose to keep your children hybrid, if Andrea chose to keep her children hybrid and then Pat chose to send her child in 5 days, that would be her choice to then send them in 5 days. I think the concern is, like you said, it's great now because they're all 50-50 so much, but if Pat chose to send her child back in 5 days, that's another added child in that one classroom the extra day of the week. So I think it is something to look at, and it is a concern of ours. What do we do when they have to eat and whatnot if 10 kids come back? But I honestly believe that from the surveys, not all the parents are looking to return their children 5 days.
No.
So I think it's going to be, you know, a blurb of kids here and a group of kids here. But in order for us to get that mindset and the numbers of what it would be, we need those surveys to come back to see what the intent of parents would be.
Yeah, I just felt like a little bit like the beginning of the year too, like, you know, when we don't have the actual decision of the district and we're being asked to make a decision of what we want to do, and we don't have the decision of what the district is going to do that can possibly change the classroom configurations. I just feel like I can't really make a truly informed decision without having the district stance on, you know, this is what we're going to do affirmatively, or no, we're going to keep it as is. And now, you can give us your realistic intent of what you want to do with these things in place. It just makes it very difficult. And I felt the same way with the busing configurations in the beginning of the year that, I didn't have the information to really be able to make that solid decision as to what I wanted to do. And then I ended up not even doing busing because I felt like I didn't have enough clarity, even though I'm still, as a resident, paying into it on the taxing end. So, it just makes it difficult. That's when we don't have the board and the district's, definitive answer on what they're going to do.
Unfortunately, we cannot make a definitive answer without, we're not asking you for your formal intent. We're not asking you for a guarantee that this is what you want to do. But in order for us to even make some sort of decision, if we got 75% of the community sending back papers that say everybody wants to stay hybrid for the rest of the year, that would be pretty much, or that would be their thought process, that they think we're doing a great job, we want to stay hybrid, then that's gearing us in one direction. But if we also got 75% of the district telling us everybody should be in full time, then that might steer us in another direction. Nothing is guaranteed. That piece of paper that you have is not an intent or a decision.
Okay. I wasn't aware of that. So thank you for clarifying that. Mr. Riemann, I know you gave percentages and you said that they're different responses for the intent based upon the secondary and the elementary level. Can you just recap those again? Because I didn't capture the percentages on that, if you don't mind.
I would love to.
Okay.
K through 6, 3/4 of the families either want hybrid or full in.
What was that? K through 6?
Yes.
Okay. K through 6, what was the number?
75%.
Okay.
And of that 75%, 70% prefer full in.
Okay.
I mean, it's every day.
Okay.
7 to 12 was a little different. Again, these are approximations. 45% prefer hybrid. And in the neighborhood of 40, approximately prefer full in or every day.
Okay.
And we're not rushing into anything. I just want to point out a few things. I have to follow the protocols of New York State. I have to follow the protocols of the New York State Department of Health. They directed me to have meetings to discuss with the community, which this board, I must say, over the past decade has done a phenomenal job of doing. They talk to many people to get input. So this is exactly what we're doing, getting input from as many people as we possibly can. So it's important for us to have an understanding of where people are in their heads before we can make a decision. I don't think you want us to make a unilateral decision. So it'd be contrary to what you're saying. So I think it's important to get input from as many people as we can and then make the best decision for all of us. And that's exactly what we're doing. And
No, I agree with that. And that's why I said to Karen, thank you for clarifying that the intent form was just kind of like a surveyed response, but it wasn't like a declarative, like this is what I'm going with before I actually know. Because I wasn't aware of that. And are we able to just like say that 70% of the students in the K through 6 grade band all came back in the classroom? Are we able to accommodate all of them with decreasing those distancing guidelines to 3 feet, or are we not able to do it at 6 feet if that was the case?
You can't do it at 6 feet. Not
Okay.
70. No. If 70% of a building comes back, there is no way to keep it at 6 feet. No.
Okay.
Our classrooms are not that big. I mean, they're not tiny. Well, the kindergarten classes, we could argue, not true kindergarten sized classrooms, but other than that, all the buildings are typically sized classrooms. But there is no district. So I think part of the confusion, let me just back up. There are districts who have been in, right, the entire year, especially at the elementary level, because they bought those barriers. And they gave them a false sense of security, right? And then they were quarantining 50, 60, 30. I mean, we heard stories of 100 in a day. Neighboring district had 300 over 2 days. Another district had 200 over a week. So that's something else for us to consider. And I'm going to be totally transparent. If we go to less than 6 feet, let's say if we go to 5.5 feet, and if I'm the COVID person, if I get the coronavirus, Miss Riley's automatically out, Miss Rome's automatically out, and probably Miss Shinsada's automatically out. Where in the past, why we've been doing such a good job is that we maintain the 6 feet protocol, right? So if I get coronavirus, unfortunately, everyone else does 6 feet. So, people were panicking, calling me and screaming at me and saying, we're not quarantining everybody like everybody else. That's exactly correct, because we're staying at 6 feet and they're not. That's their choice, and they make their own choices. But as we've learned now through research, scientific research, these barriers didn't do anything. And so I have my own thoughts about that, and something else to weigh. So what we're doing this week is to get as much input as possible. And yes, there is a time crunch, because if you drag it out too long, right, then the quarter's over and then the year's over. And maybe that's the way it'll be anyway. I don't know, right? But I think it's important, especially this year, to be as transparent as possible. And I think we've done that the entire year. I personally don't think I should be sending out letters anymore if someone gets a case, but I still do it because people want it. I know a lot of people tell me, Mr. Riemann, you're wasting your time. I don't even listen to the message anymore. We just assume it's a coronavirus call and I just accept it for what it is. Okay, well, that's one person's opinion. That's fine. I do it because we think it's important. We've been transparent the whole year about this. Nothing's perfect. No one ever says anything's perfect, but we've done a good job with the positivity rate. Kids are learning. We're doing the best we can under these conditions. I think the teachers and the staff and the administrators have done a phenomenal job. More importantly, I think the students have done a phenomenal job. You couldn't tell that they're hybrid. They're happy to be in school. I mean, we walked through the Chestnut Street School at one point just to check in on everybody, see how they were doing. We had a seat experiment going on in one classroom. We had long and short eye vowel going on in another classroom. Recess going on inside because we were in the lockout in 2 other classrooms. In the 3rd classroom, they were setting up for writer's workshop. These kids were as happy as could be. All they wanted to do was share what they were learning, right? So, there's a lot of good stuff that we've learned from this. And, there are some technical aspects of it that I think we would keep moving forward. For example, I haven't talked about this formally with anybody, but my opinion, we probably will have times when we wear a mask. And let me give you an example of what I mean. We'll stay with Chestnut. Kindergarten classroom, right? Stomach virus is something that typically runs through a kindergarten class. So why wouldn't we, right? If we gave everybody masks at the beginning of the year, to leave it in a baggie in this classroom. Someone gets stomach virus, we take everybody out of the classroom like we do now. We clean the classroom, and then they wear a mask to keep the windows open maybe for a day or 2. Wouldn't that be wise? Because if you look at the numbers, where is stomach virus gone? Where is pneumonia gone? Where is the flu gone? Where is just the common cold? Where is that gone? Where is bronchitis gone? I mean, they didn't disappear off the planet, but we must be doing something, right? And I think it's a combination of the work of Mr. Dworsak's staff, constantly cleaning. I think it's the protocols that we've initiated, some of which we have to come back to reality and face that September, we're probably going to come back to school. So what measures can we continue to take that worked to ensure that they continue to work? Parents have done a great job of ensuring that when kids are sick, they stay home. For the first time, probably since, I don't know, the 90s, we're getting notes from doctors. I mean, we haven't seen a doctor's note since I don't know when. So, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff that's come out of this. I mean, no one wants to be in a pandemic. Don't think I'm stating that. But there are practices that we've established that we're going to maintain and continue. So, again, it's important to get input from everybody to get a better understanding of what people's heads are. And if we don't have these conversations, if we don't put out surveys, how do we know?
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions from in the audience? So, just my own thought. Logistically, I've been thinking about this since all this guidance came out last week for us, for New York State. The guidance from the CDC came out. Well, I shouldn't say the guidance, but yeah, the guidance from the CDC came out earlier than that, but New York State adopted that guidance on the 9th, right? It was the 9th. Mm-hmm. So prior to us adopting that guidance, I've had a long time to think about this and, you know, a couple of us have talked about it just as parents, saying that feasibly, we don't know how to make this work in the secondary plant. You know, we don't have the size classrooms. I mean, we all know that some of those classes have 30 kids in them. There's no way to go at 3 feet with 30 kids in a class, not even 25 kids in a class, not with adult children. So I'm not really sure how that would work out. You know, that part you think about. And then when you think about the younger kids and the kids in the elementary schools, where you really want those youngest learners in the classrooms, you also have to worry about the youngest learners who have been remarkable thus far, being able to be closer and maybe feeling a little freer and maybe taking their mask off when they're not supposed to or something like that. So these are things that I think all of us have been thinking about. I think administration have been thinking about. And I think it is part of the reason that we wanted to get the input from the community. Obviously, the parents are the ones that have to decide what's best for their kids in the long run. Even if we say we're going to make the buildings 3 feet, whether it be K6 or, you know, K3, whatever the case may be, it's up to the parent to decide if they're going to make those children come back 5 days a week or keep them home hybrid. We're not, at no point would the option not be there to remain hybrid. So I just want to make sure that we remember that. We truly believed, I think, as a board and as administration, that New York State was not going to adopt that guidance until the September opening. So I think we believed we had this long of a period of time to prepare for how to bring the kids back in full. So now we're just in a position where we have to look at what the parents want, and if some of the parents do want their children to come back 5 days, how do we make that happen if it's possible? So I want to thank everybody for the input that they've given thus far. And does anybody if anybody has another question, I'll answer that in a second. I just type it into the thing. No, I saw Mrs. Day's question. We won't know what snack will look like. Snack will have to be 6 feet apart. I don't know if that means that they'll go downstairs and eat snack in the cafeteria, or if it really depends. If your child's classroom, nobody decides to come back 5 days a week, snack would stay the same. You know, so it really depends on how many kids in each classroom come back. Some classrooms may look different for snack because they may have additional children come back. So it's very hard to say how it would look in each individual classroom. I apologize, I don't have a better answer for that. Do we have any other questions from the audience, from any of the administrators or any of the educators that are in the audience? Okay. Wendy. Mrs. Hafner, next Tuesday's budget hearing is in the middle school. I don't know if that answers the question, but for right now, next Tuesday's budget hearing is being held in the middle school. Okay, so if we haven't, I'm gonna just wait 1 second, see if there's any other questions out there. Otherwise, I want to say thank you for joining us and giving your input. And like Mr. Riemann said, there are 3 more meetings this week with additional buildings and educators from the district. And then we will reconvene to have a conversation about what the district is going to do moving forward. So I want to thank you all again for coming out. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Wait 1 second. We got the kids who need to be in school to learn, and homeschool isn't working. Yes, which is how there are some parents that do want their children to be back in school 5 days, which is part of the purpose of this conversation.
I'd just like to add, I'm not going to speak for every district in Nassau County, Long Island, or the state, but I know we've done a good job. And again, thanks to the leadership of this current board. We were very flexible in our model, even though we have the concurrent hybrid model as our main model. We have brought kids back who needed to be back in. We gave preference to certain subgroups of our population that we knew needed to be in every day. And we continue to massage that as the year has progressed. So I think we've done a very good job with bringing school back. And I think we've all learned, quite honestly, I think that's, I can't see, I think it's Miss Mummondy. Full in, we know works pretty well. Hybrid, I think, has worked pretty well, better than we even thought. I think we would all agree, full remote. Yeah, not so much. I don't think any of us are overly impressed with that model, at least the way it's currently structured. And if the state decides that we have to offer that as an option, we would have to look at doing it much differently.
Mrs. Mummondy, if you have, I'm assuming that's you, I'm sorry. You can unmute yourself, you can say something.
Yes, it's me, sorry. I just wanted to say, having 3 kids, 2 with IEPs and 1 who's an honor student, all 3 of them do better in school. I 100% agree that you guys are doing the very best that you can. And Mr. Riemann takes several calls and emails from me and has been wonderful. But I get what Mrs. Day is saying, but I'm a parent on the other side who kids need to be in school. That's how they learn. That's how they do the best. And my honor student couldn't do it. She couldn't do it. She cannot be home every other day. She was learning every other day. So I just wanted to put my opinion in as a parent who really needs their kids in school every day because that's what works best for them. That's all I wanted to do. And I'm sure there are tons of parents like me, and then I'm sure there's tons of parents like Miss Day. I would forfeit snack because they're not learning at home. It's not happening.
And that's the beauty of our school district, I think. We come in with these diverse opinions, yet we still figure out how to make it all work. So I greatly appreciate Mrs. Day's opinions and thoughts because she has legitimate concerns to keep her family safe. And you have the same feeling, but you need something different. That's okay. And that's what we have to figure out to make work. And I think that's the balancing act that we're going to figure out for the remainder of the year. And again, I just want to reiterate what Mrs. Brome said and what Mrs. Day said. Is it rushed? Not by us. Listen, we got a mandate from the New York State Department of Health through Governor Cuomo. We have to do this, so we're doing it. But I don't feel we're rushing.
Another thing too right. I'm very aware that you guys have a ton of rules that you have to follow that a lot of people don't realize. And it is hard for you guys to figure out how to make everybody happy. That's just the truth of the whole thing.
Well,
We're working on it.
We're working on, that's why we're gathering input. So thank you all so very much for expressing your opinions. As always, greatly appreciate it. And,
I have a quick question, Mr. Raymond.
yes, ma'am.
Well, Ms. Anito will probably be able to answer this. Hi, Ms. Anito. What time do the elementary kids eat snack all at the same time, or they eat like at a staggered time for snack?
You know, it's a little staggered because different lunch periods, right? So you try to space snack and lunch.
Okay,
know,
so
And you also judge, each teacher's pretty good about this, especially at the primary level. They judge the kids' needs at that moment in time, you know?
do you know what time Miss Carol's class eats snack?
We will get you that information and send it to you tomorrow.
How about lunch? Is that staggered too for 3rd grade or no? It's the same time. Same time?
Probably is staggered this year because of COVID. Ms.
Okay.
Anito, do you have the answer to the lunch one? Oops.
They are the last lunch period. So they end their lunch period at 1:20. I believe they start their lunch at 12:40, I want to say. But Mrs. Day, I will get you that information.
Okay. Thank you for
Absolutely
sharing
tomorrow.
that.
It's
I
it's
just
the
want, no,
last
I just,
third period. 3rd grade is the last
Miss
period.
Anito? Ms. Anito, just do me a favor, get the snack and lunch information to Ms. Day tomorrow, please.
no, thank you, Miss
Absolutely.
Anito. No, but my point,
No problem.
okay. My point was just that, you know, as far as it being, you know, recommended for a 3rd grader or any elementary student at that to forego having snack when they're eating breakfast at 7 and 7:30 in the morning and not eating lunch until 5 hours after, I think is very unreasonable. You know, but like you said, the district has different people in the district have a diverse perspective when it comes to these things. But, you know, expecting an elementary student not to eat in over 5 hours, I think is a little extensive.
I don't think anyone was saying that, Mrs. Day overall, but you know. it's the
It was
beauty of
like
America.
forgo snack to bring all the kids back to school.
It's the beauty of America. It's the beauty of our district to have an opinion, and everyone's allowed to
About
have
that.
it.
I don't think.
Say
that
that's
she
just my
was-
opinion. That's just my opinion. Totally just my opinion.
Absolutely.
All right, so again, we're going to get you that information tomorrow in regard to when, your child eats snack and just confirm the lunch hours. And we will, after the meetings following this week, we will get back to reconvening and having a conversation about where our district is gonna go moving forward. So I do want to thank everybody for joining us again this evening. And we hope to see you next Tuesday. Again, next Tuesday's meeting is in the middle school. For those that want to attend the meeting, otherwise you will be available via Zoom. We will be testing that next week. So we hope to see you back next Tuesday at 7:30.
Budget hearing.
It's budget hearing, yes. With that, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much for coming out and sharing your opinions.